Welcome to my PowerPoint about face cards in Balatro. So there are a lot of jokers that interact with face cards. Today we're going to be starting with reserve parking and business card. Reserve parking has a 1 in 2 chance to give $1 per face card held in hand. This can actually be a pretty good source for early game money. You're usually going to be discarding using all of your discards, right? And then sometimes you'll just have, well, kings, queens, jacks left over. There isn't really any downside to taking this, especially in the early game, because, well, it's money, and, you know, it's not hard to do at all. The same goes for business card. While it still has a 1 in 2 chance, it gives $2 when a face card is scored. This, again, has no real condition. Of course, you have to play face cards, so it is slightly harder than just having them in hand, but the amount of money it provides is pretty good. Both of these, of course, have a 100% success rate if you do play Oops All Sixes, but, I mean, getting money like this from these cards in the early game is pretty good. I can't tell you how many times I will take these and then just get, like, hey, it costs $4 to take, I'll get $10 from it. Overall, it's a pretty good investment that can be used to transition into more powerful jokers in the late game, not even, like with complete ease. There's no difficulty in using them aside from just playing face cards. And, well, a lot of the time, if you're going to be playing, say, you know, flushes or straights, you can make face cards pretty easily. You know, you just transform, like, say, low cards, you cut them from your deck, and a lot of the time people are, you know, putting gold or steel on their face cards anyway because of, like, say, retriggers, that having something like reserve parking just works pretty well. I'm not gonna lie. Then we have Faceless Joker and Midas Mask. Faceless Joker it's not that good. It is significantly easier to use than Mail-in Rebate, right? Because it's only face cards. You know, Mail-in Rebate changes every round, but it gives $5 for if you discard 3 or more face cards. Mail-in Rebate gives $5 if you discard any single card. Yes, of course, like I said, you know, Mail-in Rebate, it can change, but, I mean, opportunity cost-wise, you'd much rather have Mail-in Rebate than Faceless Joker. Faceless Joker is, like, not even good with Pareidolia because, like, I mean, you still have to discard 3 cards to do it, whereas, again, Mail-in Rebate, 1 card gets you $5. I actually think I have never taken Faceless Joker in my entire life. I really think I've never taken it. I think even if I get off, like, Judgment, I just don't keep it, and it's, like, not really that useful. But what is useful is actually Midas Mask. So, of course, I tried to break this into, like, a little bit of sections, right? You saw that I talked about money jokers first. Midas Mask, of course, is a money joker. When a face card is scored, Midas Mask will turn it into a golden card. This is actually amazing for early game, like, money generation, right? Because, like I said, you're going to be holding some face cards pretty consistently, when I was talking about the reserve parking. So having Midas Mask, you're going to get a lot of money. That's not even considering its interaction with Vampire. Vampire strips the enhancement from cards and then applies, it applies to itself, a 0.1 times bonus. So if you play 5 face cards that are all enhanced, it'll gain 0.5 times every hand. That is good with Midas Mask because you can set it up in your hand to have Midas Mask and then Vampire, I think is how you set it up, left to right. Vampire will suck the enhancement off, and then Midas Mask will put it back on instantly. This can be very good with Pareidolia. Wow, of course we're going to talk about that card. Pareidolia turns all of your cards into face cards. This isn't, like, that insane for some of the cards we'll talk about later, right? Because it's just face cards. It doesn't turn them into kings, queens, or jacks. So there is a little bit less synergy with that, but it's still pretty good. As already mentioned, it will turn all your cards golden with the Midas Mask. It will work with all of the cards that have previously been talked about, like your business card or your reserve parking. And then, I mean, overall, it's just decent, right? Pareidolia is not, like, a big downside if you are taking it. There is no downside to it at all, right? It's easy to use, it's conditionless, and it has, like, a lot of use cases. It's really fun to use. I like Pareidolia when you have, like, a couple of legendary jokers that we'll talk about later. Ooh. And especially with Photograph. Photograph is such a good card. I mean, like, I have to stop for a second. Photograph is one of the best jokers, in my opinion, right? Like, obviously, there's always context on what a good joker is, blah, 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 but Photograph can be used in almost any build, right? There's, like, so many ways to use it, and all it does is it makes your first played face card gain ×2 molt. That's really good. The reason it's good, of course, is retriggers. Retriggers, can be really strong with something like this. If you turn it into a molt card, or you have like really high level, like say through straights or through, obviously 5 of a kind, but that would be ideal. You'll get a lot of molt, and then you have the Hanging Chad, which causes the Photo Chad combo. It's really, really goofy. Hanging Chad, of course, retriggers the first card you play twice, so you have Hanging Chad plus Photograph, you'll gain ×2 molt, ×2 molt, ×2 molt, so 2 to the third times molt, and that can really, really add up. Of course, you do have to note that, like, on score effects, like Photograph and, the Hanging Chad, will go off before molt from your jokers, so it's not great if all of the molt in your run is coming from your jokers, right? Say you're going for, I don't know, a green joker where you want to play a lot of hands or anything like that, right? But it is great when a lot of the molt is coming from your poker hand itself, right? You have 20 levels in straight, right? That's +3 molt every time you get a level, so plus 60. So it gets multiplied by 2 is 120 ×2, 240 ×2 is 480. That's a lot of molt to then get multiplied further by your jokers. So Photograph just does a lot for you, and it's really, really good. I'm so serious. If you guys haven't played with Photograph and Hanging Chad yet, I don't know how you haven't, because it's a super popular combo. It's really fun to play with. Then we have some other jokers. So we have Scary Face, which gives you +30 chips when you score a face card. Face cards already give 10 chips, so that makes 40 chips total, and that's not great. It's definitely fine in the early game, right? Especially if you're playing, like, say, a full house or something like that to get your jokers, but it's definitely it doesn't scale in the slightest, right? Retriggers, of course, can redo it, and we'll talk about, the face card retrigger in a second here, but it's just not amazing. I think I only ever take this on, like, ante-1 round 1 if I desperately need something, and that's not good. Not good at all. Speaking of not that great face card jokers, we have Smiley Face. Smiley Face gets +5 molt when a face card scores. Of course, this is the alternative to Scary Face, right? Gaining, like, flat molt like this is better is better technically, because, like, if you are playing a straight, right, it's 30 × 4. I keep using straights as my example. I guess you could do flush, which is also like 30 × 4, etc. I'm trying to, like, ones that you play a lot of face cards in, right? If you play 3 face cards, it'll be 30 × 19, which is... Oh my gosh, why did I do this to myself? 3,000... And then 20... So it's 5,700, I want to say? You know what? Ignore my math. My math doesn't matter. I'm just trying to say that, like, having molt is better if it comes to an equal, like, a closer number with your chips. That's why the plasma deck is so good, is that it makes your chips be at equilibrium, right? Or your chips and molt, so you get a higher number. I'm not great at math. I'll always admit this, right? I'm okay at it, but it's just follow that, basically. Having a higher number of chips in the early game doesn't really matter compared to making your molt equal to your chips. It's kind of what I'm trying to get at. I know I'm, like, rambling on it because, like, I'm trying to quantify it to myself, even though I know how it works. It's just I'm trying to say it out loud. And then we talk about a really good face card retrigger, Sock and Buskin. Sock and Buskin just retriggers all your face cards. That's amazing. This can be really good with red seals, or with, like, enhancements from, like, molt cards or lucky cards, or, anything like that. If you have cards that are based on, say, Photograph, that are based on playing cards and getting retriggers, it can be really powerful. This can, of course, be good with Scary Face, Smiley Face. We'll get to, some legendary jokers, and it's great there. But Sock and Buskin it's pretty good. There are, of course, scenarios where you don't want it, because it is technically, like, it's technically not the best, right? There are better, like, re-triggers in the game, right? Because you have, well, Ballot. Ballot's a great example. If you're only playing one face card, or two, I guess, Ballot is just better than Sock and Buskin, right? If you're playing one face card. If you play 2, it's equal, and if you play 3, then it is better, right? But a lot of the times you're not always playing the full 3 face cards, and that makes, well, Sock and Buskin not that good. And then again, when you do include something like Photograph, then Sock and Buskin becomes a lot worse than Ballot. So it does have scenarios where it can be good. It's really good. You know, you can have it with Pareidolia to get re-triggers there, but it is a little more situational because it only applies to face cards. That being said, still a great card. Still useful on face card builds or flushes, etc. So I would not pass it up. Then we talk about legendary jokers. Canio gives gains times +1 molt. That's hard to say. Every time you destroy a face card. This is invaluable with Pareidolia. You can destroy like 20, 30 cards in a run with Pareidolia, Canio, get 20, 30 times molt. That's insane. That's actually a disgusting amount of molt that you can get from one card. Canio is very powerful. Of course, I said this in my Legendary Jokers video, that these two they're good, right? And they're definitely, I'd still argue, you know, second, third are like ish best Jokers, or Legendary Jokers in my opinion. But Canio is still, you know, hard to set up. You have to get a lot of destroys. You can't transform out of face cards because then you'll not get the destroy, like from death. But if you are getting those destroys from like Immolate, Hangman, you know, trading cards, Sixth Sense, etc., you can get just so much value from Canio. And then there's Triboulet. Triboulet is so awesome. Triboulet gives ×2 molt whenever a king or queen is scored. So everything I said about Photograph applies to Triboulet. That's really good. Triboulet and Sock and Buskin is, if you play 5 face cards, it's 2 to the 5th, gosh, times molt. That's a lot of molt. Of course, it is going to be based on your poker level or poker hand molt, like I said before, but that's still really good. And every time you re-trigger, you know, like I said with Sock and Buskin or at Ballot, it just keeps going and keeps going higher and higher. Triboulet has a gigantic cap on what it can do, but you do obviously, of course, have to play a full face card deck to make the most value out of it. Typically, the best way to do this is like full house or like 4/5 of a kind. Flush can do it, straight can do it, but it's a little harder sometimes with those. Overall, though, I mean, both of these Legendary Jokers are amazing. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. They're both very, very good. All of the Legendary Jokers are good. Even Chico is, like, still decent. You know, it gets Temperance value. Ooh. But I love these. I love these two. I love all the Legendary Jokers. They're so awesome. I love the fan art for them. This piece, I put the author's name in, so I won't say it right now, but I'm going to put it in the comment section as well. It's so awesome. I love the Legendary Jokers in this game. They're just so well designed, in my opinion. Then we have the last 3, Baron, Shoot the Moon, and Hit the Road. Baron gives 1.5 times molt per king held in hand. This is absurd, by the way. Most of the high score runs in Balatro are making use of Baron. So what you do is you have Baron, you have a giant handful of kings from, you know, cryptids that are generated by Perkio. You have Mime to re-trigger them. You make them all steel with red steel, and they just bing, 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 and they have a million re-triggers over and over and over again until you get high scores, you know, in the E like 40s and 50s or whatever. The highest score run I've ever seen is Anti 39, and it made use of Barons, and it's just really cool. I'm not gonna lie. Baron's one of those jokers that you kind of have to have like a lot, and I mean a lot of setup for, because at his worst, he just says your kings are steel cards, right? And that's fine. Don't get me wrong. But if you're using a Joker slot up for that, it's not amazing. It really isn't. And again, you do have to note that cards held in hand trigger. So it goes played cards, you know, the 5 cards that you're playing, then cards held in hand. Then you get your Joker's trigger, right? So again, if all of your molt is coming from your Jokers, Baron kind of doesn't really do that much for you. Then there's Shoot the Moon. Shoot the Moon gives each queen held in hand plus 13 molt. This can actually be really good in the early game, way better than Baron could ever be, especially like even off of just one queen. It's going to do a lot of work. It doesn't scale very well, obviously, right? You can only have a maximum hand size of like 10, not including like if you have Juggler and Troubadour, which would make it up to 13, I think. But and then like, you know, again, compared to Baron, well, if you're just gonna have a giant handful of like a face card, well, you'd much rather have it be kings rather than Shoot the Moon, because I think I mean, I think it's probably if you get like 3 or 4 barons, like 2 or 3 kings, 3 or 4 kings based on just your poker hand molt, it will be way higher than Shoot the Moon can give you. And then, well, if you're playing like Red Seal Steel Kings, then wow, that is a way higher amount. Shoot the Moon is very good in the early game, but I really don't think you would ever, I mean, it just kind of like doesn't do anything like mid to late game overall. Then lastly, but very certainly not least, is Hit the Road. Hit the Road gives 0.5 times molt for every jack discarded this round. So if you're playing red deck and you discard 5 jacks per hand, or per like hand discarded, that's 20 jacks, you can get 10 times molt. That's nothing to scoff at. That's actually a really high amount of molt that you can get. Hit the Road is probably the hardest of these to use because you have to actually discard your jacks. So, you know, again, of the 3, you know, Shoot the Moon, you're not really going to ever take it late game, so it's not like you're going to have a full queen deck. But to make the most out of Hit the Road, you kind of do have to have a full jack deck. It can be really good. Do not get me wrong, of course. But in terms of difficulty, it's probably as hard as Baron and doesn't have as high of a ceiling as Baron. If you get more discards, right, from Wasteful and Recyclomancy and Drunkard, or you have the like Boss Blind that discards 2 cards per card, or like when you play a hand, then this can go even higher. But I mean, that's not gonna happen very often. Let's be real here. It's definitely not bad. I've won a run with Hit the Road, like just getting it with only like 8 jacks in my deck, and I only had like, you know, 20 something cards in my deck, so I'd get a good amount of molt from it. But it's fun. It's probably the most fun of these 3, and isn't that like the whole point of Balatro, is to play the most fun deck possible rather than playing the same thing you've always played? That's how I feel about it. Anyway, that's going to be it for me. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Tell me what you think down below. What do you guys think about face cards? I really like playing with kings. I think kings are just simple. They are, you know, high amount of chips, and it's not too hard to play with. Baron is really fun to do with like Mine, Blueprint, Brainstorm shenanigans, and of course Perkio. Yeah, again, as always, I like to hear everyone's favorite Joker when I make do my outro for these. It's just a fun thing, right? Everyone has a different favorite Joker. My favorite Joker is Yorick. That's why I have him in my outros now, and he's fun. The art that was in that the Canio and Tribulate slide was created by Kitty Knight on Reddit. There's going to be a link in the comment section, of course. You guys can follow my socials. They're right there, or they're in the description. Make sure to join my Discord, because everyone likes talking about Balatro there, and I'm trying to really get the Balatro side of my community, you know, galvanized in my Discord, blah, blah, blah. Who cares? I'll see you guys next time. Have a good one. Peace out.